What's up, guys? Here with you with FC Wonderkid, episode 107, here with my guy, Breton. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. It is a weird kind of day. You have all of these emotions. You have promotions. You have relegations. You have people storming the pitch. You have Champions League football for the first time. You have records. When all is said and done, we just went through what? A whole lot of football. And I can't wait to do it all over again. Most people are tired at the end of a season. I'm ready for another whole season, man. But this was a dizzying week of football. So how are you doing?
A dizzy week it was, but a lot of confirmations. We got the league titles in Portugal, France, Spain was confirmed, but at relegations too. I saw that you were hinting. We got confirmations that in the Premier League, Southampton, Leeds and Leicester are the three teams relegated. But we sure have a story with Luton. But people, do not forget to like episode 107 to see more podcasts just like this. And I want to start by saying Haaland did it. Haaland won the best youngster and the best player of the Premier League. Totally deserved. Yeah. And the other two players that did this was Gareth Bale and Cristiano Ronaldo. Imagine this front three, okay, of the winners of the best player and best youngster, like with Bale, Ronaldo, and Haaland. Imagine this front trio. It would be one of the greatest front trios ever. And only these players have won the best player and the best youngster in the season. Elite.
That's like a all hair attack too. I mean, my goodness, between those three, you got some of the best hair on the planet. No. Listen, Erling Haaland, like you said, deserved absolutely everything coming to him, and he's going to get more awards coming his way. We know that for sure. But I am just so in awe at how he has leveled up at every place that he has gone. Gotten stronger, gotten mentally stronger, has had less portions of games where he's disappeared. I mean, the goals and the tallies and the awards obviously all come to it, but this kid, because let's remember, he's still 22. He is a master, kind of like Ronaldo, in always wanting to refine himself, to make himself better. And I think that's kind of a thing that I'm looking at and I'm going, what does he do next? Like, what's next? Well, Champions League finals next. We'll see what happens there. But beyond that, what can Erling Haaland do in his career? And it's just absolutely scary. So happy that the Prem finally did it and said both Premier League player and Young Player of the Year. It's not like here's a participation award. This man deserved it, and what an absolute season from Erling Haaland. It's unbelievable.
Fuck. And Erling Haaland in his first season had a major impact on Man City that people are stating. People are stating that is the best Premier League team they've ever seen. And I completely understand why they're putting Man City in this discussion. And Erling Haaland is the key factor for all this happening. Kevin De Bruyne too. What a season has been having. And Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, in my opinion, are the boldest duo in the last decade in the Premier League. Yes, Kane and Son were special, but De Bruyne and Haaland have the trophies and the goals to match their greatness. What a season from both. And it's true, once again, I'll state it. Man City have the opportunity next to Man United to be the only English team to have a European treble. And I really believe their toughest matchup will be Man United. That they're looking strong with big boy Casemiro. What a leader he is. I wanted to mention this too. Casemiro, the mentality that he's brought, he is the best signing of Man United this season, and he has changed the culture of the club next to Erik ten Hag. That will be a big game, the FA Cup final. Huge.
Yeah. It's absolutely shocking to me. I don't know if we've gotten this on a podcast, but I'm sure you've heard it by all the outlets. This Manchester City, this all Manchester final, right, of the FA Cup, June 3rd, is somehow the first time we've seen Manchester United, Manchester City face each other in an FA Cup final, right? That's pretty impressive if you think about it. But it also gives you a brief glimpse into how, in the scope of football, how long the FA Cup has been around, and how short of a time that Manchester City has been as dominant as they have been. In our lifetimes, Manchester City, I don't know of a non-dominant Manchester City. But it is amazing to me. So you actually think Manchester United has a chance in this one, huh?
I really do. I really do. And for me, man, it's incredible, right? When you have both options for striker, Martial and Weghorst. What a season Erik ten Hag has done at Man United. Erik ten Hag it's required and demanded, okay? Like, he should demand to the board, give me a striker. It's unbelievable how Man United are landing Champions League football. They're winning a League Cup. They're in an FA Cup final, and both their options for strikers, Anthony Martial and Weghorst. That can't happen. It simply can't happen. They have to break the bank for a striker this summer, Man United. Gonçalo Ramos, Harry Kane. It has to be, or Victor Osimhen. That will be more than 130 million to convince Napoli. But Man United have to go bold this summer. It just has to happen.
I'm in agreement. I mean, we're pretty close to seeing McTominay up top, so we'll see what happens.
And another thing, you're reminding me, Breton. It's Man United need another striker, and they need to finally have a replacement CDM if Casemiro ain't playing. We know he can get a suspension here and there, and they need some backup. I thought James Garner was going to be that player, but since he's not, sign a player. Sign a player to make that happen. I have to mention that. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. And I do have to say, late in this season, I have liked a whole lot more what I've been seeing from Jadon Sancho.
Oh, yes.
And that's another developmental piece that if Ten Hag can unlock him and bring back, bring in a striker that has had the same chemistry that Sancho had with Haaland at Dortmund, it could get pretty interesting at United. But hey, trajectory is up. I understand. I mean, kind of like Grealish before him, it's taken him a little bit longer, but with that price tag comes a whole lot of expectation. And listen, he hit his bottom in the sense of being left out of training. And now I think Jadon Sancho, with a full summer under his belt, a little Ten Hag ball in his head for the summer, could do him wonders. And I think he's going to have himself a very, very big 2023-2024 season.
I like that prediction, Breton. I'm going to match you with that. And I'll say these four Man United wingers for next season, it's going to be very exciting to watch. Rashford and Sancho. Sancho picking up late stages, agreed. And Amad Diallo back from loan. And Garnacho having the time now to prove himself as a starter for next season. That can happen too, because Garnacho, when he comes on, the bags of pace, the intensity, he makes a change in the game. And if he manages to be that key player in the Champions League and in the Premier League next season, that's a star in the making. Only 18 now.
It is.
Only 18 now, Garnacho. But again, big summer ahead for Man United. Big summer.
Big summer ahead for Man United, but here we are talking about the fourth place team in the Premier League and skipping over wildly the third place team and the second place team for that matter. And there's two shout outs that happened on the final weekend that I have to throw out there. Granit Xhaka scores a brace, right? On his final day for Arsenal, scores a brace against Wolves. And it's very clear that he is pretty much definitely going to be signing for Leverkusen in the coming days, even though Arteta has been relatively mum on commenting on it. But that is a guy that I'll be sad to see him leave the Premier League for better and for worse, because we saw him at his worst. And this year, I think we got much closer to what was his best when it comes to leadership, when it comes to the expectation that Arsenal fans had for him. He was toned down and he was pretty much always focused when it came to it. So I'll be watching Schalke at Leverkusen. But then in third place, I have to mention this guy before I forget to, because we get really deep into things here. What Joe Linton has done at Newcastle does not get enough credit. It does not get enough credit. This man has gone from worst to first, in Newcastle fans' eyes, right? He struggled when he came to Newcastle. He came in a pretty, previous to new ownership, pretty high price tag. He joined Newcastle in, and he was pretty much a waste of space for a long period of time.
True.
I don't think there's any denying that. We might even remember that there was a time that Breton Bonnet here, yes, I'm talking about myself in the, I don't know what person that is, called for Newcastle to potentially get relegated, and Joe Linton was right in the crosshairs of that ire of me saying that. And here he is, revolutionized. It happened before Eddie Howe came in, but Eddie Howe has accentuated it and turned it into something that is palpable, that is something that Newcastle can actually trust upon, that Joe Linton will be there. And his transformation does not get enough credit, even though people talk about it. They generally talk about it in passing. I think beyond Bruno, beyond Almiron, which is pretty impressive in and of itself, beyond that defense, Joe Linton is just as amazing of a story coming out of St. James Park as any one of those. Right on par with them, because if his transformation did not happen, we wouldn't be talking about Champions League football for Newcastle United this season.
That's bold. That's a bold claim. I think he was very important, but that's bold, Breton. I think Bruno Guimarães was that player.
Of course.
But I understand. Good reference, because he changed position, and Eddie Howe made a great showing of his talent as a manager.
But all of this gets rewarded. At
True.
his age, right? Joe Linton. He's not that old, but he will be on the plane with Bruno. He has been called up for the first time to the Brazilian national team, Joe Linton. So, I get it's for friendlies and stuff like that, but I'm just saying, I'm happy to see it, and I really hope he's got a big future with Newcastle ahead, and that he doesn't get snuffed out by likely what's going to be quite a few signings for Newcastle United.
That's true.
Because Eddie Howe has been very, very straightforward, saying that they have overperformed this season. Overperformed beyond his wildest expectations, beyond the money they spent. Newcastle United, to Eddie Howe, has overperformed.
Well,
so we'll see.
They did, because now Eddie Howe knows he can't drop his game. Now it's Champions League or bust, okay? Now he knows that Newcastle are about to spend big money. But I just want to refer with Arsenal, like, this is key news for me. Bukayo Saka is going to extend at Arsenal. Not going to Man City, not going to any other European giant. He's staying at Arsenal, and he believes in this project with Arteta. An Arsenal legend in the making, in my opinion. And Bukayo Saka, this is a mad stat. He's featured in the last 80 games in the Premier League of Arsenal. Every single game consecutively. Bukayo Saka. No injuries. Amazing. That is a star boy. And he knows what to do with his body. Very, very well-conditioned player. That's a great highlight. Not like Martinelli. Martinelli, yes, he scored 15 goals in the Prem, and he matched Firmino's record, okay, for a Brazilian player to score a top goal scorer in one season, okay? But I believe he'll be breaking that record soon. And you referenced Xhaka too. Xhaka, farewell. Yeah. But Xhaka, in my opinion, was one of the reasons why they didn't, in the late stages, surpass Man City. They should have signed a Moises Caicedo in January. Break the bank for a player like that. But that is my opinion. And let's see this summer that I highly believe I highly believe Arteta and Arsenal will not go to this summer just to sign one midfielder. At least two. Tielemans for free would be bold. Declan Rice, Mason Mount, Caicedo. These are the names that they have to bring in order to win a Premier League title, in my opinion. Because Newcastle, this is a big summer, big window ahead, like Eddie Howe said. 18 months he started, and now they're going to spend the big money. I'm gonna say this. This is a bold prediction, and I think this will be the most exciting transfer window we'll ever witness this summer. Chelsea going bold, PSG rebuild, Newcastle, they're going to spend big, City, United, Arsenal, every top team in the Prem will spend big. Juve, I want to see what's going to happen with them too. So a lot of high expectations. And Real getting Jude Bellingham even.
Yeah, well, there's all this expectation you're saying in terms of money thrown around like Todd Bowley, except if we have 5 or 6 Todd Bowleys in the Premier League, I know the world economy is talking about inflation right now. Wait until world football sees inflation in extra high gear. We've already seen it in high gear this past season. If we really do continue on this path and these bidding wars get out of control, I'm a little worried to see what these sums of money are going to be for players that really wind up having not the expected outcome for the money spent. And I get that that's part and parcel, but it feels like it's going up, like in a absolutely ridiculous exponential fashion, to where guys that chip in 5 goals and 6 assists in a season are now worth 75 million, 80 million. And if it happens, I wonder, I mean, if Newcastle spends, right, dramatically, if City spends dramatically, if Chelsea continues to spend dramatically, can Arsenal keep up? Can they keep up with this?
They need to. Cronkies need to keep up because Arsenal have a legacy to their name, and that's what is needed. And I see it's the most exciting transfer window coming, not just because of the money. It's because Neymar's going to leave. Messi's going to leave. João Felix is going to leave. Harry Kane's even going to leave. Even Declan Rice will leave West Ham. And Jude Bellingham is going to leave too. There's a lot of key pieces in football that are going to change places, and that's why I'm really, really excited to see this transfer window in the coming, and I'm expecting it to be one of the best ever. But keeping to Newcastle, these are the players. If I were Newcastle, the players I would definitely sign, would be if Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. If Newcastle gets Sergej Milinkovic-Savic for under 50 million, that will be one of the biggest bargains the last decade. This midfielder can do it all, and one of the most underrated players I've ever seen in Serie A. Definitely. A Serbian legend in the making. Can score, can defend, can do the right pass, can read the game well, physically strong. There's not one thing Milinkovic-Savic doesn't do. So Newcastle getting him, that would be the start of a great midfield. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, Bruno Guimarães, and you mentioned Joelinton highly. That would be a bold, physical midfield. Not easy to beat. And the other players, I think cam-wise, there's 2 solid options for Newcastle that I see in the news. Dominic Szoboszlai and James Maddison that I think they can get on a cheap since Leicester got relegated. Both these players would be extraordinary signings, in my opinion. I would go Szoboszlai, Hungary legend in the making. But Maddison would be very, very solid for Newcastle too. And winger. This is my last transfer choices for Newcastle at winger. Have Moussa Diaby and Eze from Crystal Palace. If they sign any of these 2 players, that would be a big statement. But again, I like the best transfer window would be getting, in my opinion, for Newcastle, Dominic Szoboszlai, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, and Moussa Diaby. And if they can't sign Dominic Szoboszlai or Diaby, Eze or James Maddison staying in the Premier League. That would be a bold window just to solve the midfield, in my opinion, and the winger.
And I'm gonna pour a little cold water on that. I'm gonna limit it down for you, and I'm gonna say only go after Milinkovic-Savic and Moussa Diaby. Here's why. Every other person you just mentioned there is ridiculously injury prone. Szoboszlai has had his best form late in this season with Leipzig. I'll give you that, right? But he has also been out for a long period of time. And I hope that does not continue. And James Maddison, we know the trials. And part of the reason why Leicester City are going down this year is because Maddison has not been healthy the majority of the season. So it is the end of an era there. But I don't think Leicester City's just going to let him go because they're going down for cheap. But yeah, they're going to run out of obviously bargaining chips here. So I love all those shouts. I really do. I'd like to throw Christian Pulisic in there somewhere if you're looking for a winger, but that's another injury-prone gentleman that's going to have to find a new place like extra soon. And I know Newcastle has been referenced in the past, but Moussa Diaby has been nothing but a lightning bolt, a consistent lightning bolt for Bayer Leverkusen since he left, since he left PSG. And on top of that, Milinkovic-Savic, as you've already mentioned, I think he has had a relatively subpar year, believe it or not, compared to other years for Lazio. But he has Lazio, along with Maurizio Sarri. He has Lazio in the Champions League. He's got them in the Champions League and ready to compete, and that's a big deal for Lazio. It's been I don't know how long it's been, but it feels like it's been a while since they've been in Champions League football. And Milinkovic-Savic, the only place he hasn't yet shown up consistently is Serbia, and their all-star roster generally of phenomenally sound, beautiful players that just have not put together their except to frustrate Portugal. They have not put together their power for good in the World Cup. But listen, Newcastle's definitely going to be one to watch. And I think it's going to be absolutely, to use the word again, dizzying to see all the transfer targets that they throw out there. I do wonder, and I think we alluded to this, do you feel like the purse strings are going to get finally opened, we're done, doing a little bit of a step here. Now we're going to open and we're going to spend a lot of money because we've got Champions League football because we have to? Yep. Or do you think that they're going to still co-opt that incremental approach where they spend quite a bit here? Because remember, they spent 40 on Gordon. They spent 70 on Isak, who's been great, but has he hit the 70 million? I don't know yet.
Potential, yes. He's gotten more than 10 goals. A lot of strikers are now going for more than 100 million with his age. So for the risk, for the output he's had already, I understand the 70, but I understand if you think that's overpriced too. But long term, that can be the case. Yeah. But this season, Newcastle didn't lose one game to a London team in the Premier League. And that is mad to consider how soon Eddie Howe has been the manager of Newcastle too. Just wanted to mention that. And another name I see, Newcastle is competing with Man United to get Min-Jae Kim from Napoli. There is a release clause of 65 million to get Min-Jae Kim. And if Newcastle sign Min-Jae Kim and Sergej Milinkovic from the Serie A, those would be two ridiculous signings with top scouting being shown once again by the top at Newcastle. That has to be mentioned. I wanted to say that. That's great deals.
And all this makes me wonder how Luton Town even has a chance in the Premier League. But you mentioned obviously Eddie Howe, right, is at the forefront of all of this, and Eddie Howe was a big reason why Bournemouth made its way to the Premier League, and Bournemouth didn't quite have a similar trajectory to the Premier League, but Luton Town's story will be put in folklore probably alongside. They're not going to win the Premier League, but alongside Leicester in terms of minnows making their way to the top. They literally were in the Conference League.
The National
League 9 years ago. 10 years ago. There you go. And they have made their way through to League Two. They had consecutive promotions from League Two to League One. They spent a bunch of time in the Championship, and there they are winning the $200 million promotion playoff final in front of 88,000 fans at Wembley on penalty kicks with an American goalkeeper in goal. And they will, with their 10,000 person stadium, Luton Town will be a Premier League team next year alongside two teams we've seen there before. So it is immensely insane to me as an American watching promotion relegation. These are the stories that you just love European football for. These are the stories that you get obsessed with, right? Because they're the bootstrap, the plugging away since 1885, right? Luton Town, finding their way back to the top. And guess what? Doing it without a sugar daddy. Doing it without somebody bankrolling them to the tune of 300, 400 million. Doing it without, Ryan Reynolds coming out of the woodwork. Nothing against the Wrexham story, to get them out of the Conference League. Luton Town has been there. They've done it. And in fact, Luton Town were the sixth smallest wage bill in the Championship.
Wow.
So I don't know what that means for Luton Town in the Premier League. It's either going to be Sunderland-like bad in the Premier League, or it is going to be a story that keeps on giving. But what an absolute story that I wanted to make sure we mentioned before we mentioned the really sad stuff. And this is why promotion relegation at some point needs to find its way into American soccer, American football here, because these types of stories make every fixture count. And I just love, I eat it up. It's so cool. The narratives.
Luton,
so cool.
That was a special game beating Coventry. Both teams 5 years ago were in League 2, the 4th division. Yes. Both teams that were in the final in the Wembley. But Luton, Luton has one of the most bizarre away ends ever in the history of football, and we are going to see it in the Premier League. Look at the images. People will have to go through the garage of a house. It's mad that Luton is in the Premier League. And there's a player, Mpanzu, has gone from non-league football to Premier League football in the space of 10 years. Promotion to League 1, to League 2, then League 1, promotion to Championship, and now to the Premier League. Like, unreal career in the space of 10 years. Like, that is still only.
Yeah, he was. I'm gonna say this, right? I remember his name. I remember his name as a non-league pickup back when I was playing Football Manager left and right. Right? He was the guy that you could pick up in the Conference League pretty cheap or whatever because he was let go by West Ham. And he was let go back in 2013. And he is, as you just mentioned, I think, the only player ever with the same team to trek all the way up from the non-league all the way up to the Premier League. And I hope he gets his day in the sun, walking out at Old Trafford or walking out at the Emirates or wherever, or you know what, walking out at Kenilworth Park, right? Luton Town's and get ready to face off because my goodness, Peli Ruddock Mpanzo is his name. He's only 29 and let go by West Ham, and he creates this story, which it's unlikely we'll ever see this story again. But
in 10 years.
The other thing that happened in this game that is just so insane, 20 minutes in, their captain, Luton Town's captain, right? He collapses on the pitch. He collapses. He faints. Okay? He gets sent to the hospital, right? I mean, what's that got to do to your mindset when you're playing in front of 80,000 fans when you normally play in front of 10,000 fans, right? What's that got to do to your mindset when you're in the promotion playoff final? And after the game, there was a video circulating of him celebrating with his family, Tom Lockyer, him celebrating with his family at the hospital, their promotion. And when Rob Edwards, their coach, Luton Town's coach, saw that, he just like lost it on the field when he was getting interviewed. So just such a cool story, and one that obviously plays in contrast to Leeds and Leicester City and Southampton going down, but is also synonymous with Everton staying up and what it means to that fan base. So you can't, every fixture matters in the Premier League. Every fixture matters in European football, and that in and of itself makes me a bigger fan every year of world football. It's so cool.
That's it. It's a very interesting story with Luton Town. Definitely. And to see in the Premier League, that will be interesting too. And I've got some facts I want to say with the Premier League ending on my side. First things first, Kane. Kane has scored 30-plus goals in the Premier League in 2 seasons. The first player to do that. And in both, he didn't win the Golden Boot. He lost to Erling Haaland and Mo Salah. That is mad. Just leave Tottenham, Kane. Come on. This summer has to be it. And what I got to say is Liverpool, too. Liverpool, that was dramatic, that 4-4 game against Southampton last game. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Ward-Prowse involved, Lavia, even Livramento coming off the bench. I like to see that. But so many goals. Oh, yeah, Kamaldeen Sulemana played really well. That's
Finally.
But this will be
his first 2 goals. Yeah,
no, sorry. But a great player coming from Rennes. Doku, Kamaldeen Sulemana, 2 wingers to watch. I love how you're referencing that. But Klopp, this is his first full season that he hasn't qualified for the Champions League. And don't hate on Klopp. No midfield. He had no midfield a lot of the season. Thiago Alcantara, Fabinho, Henderson, Naby Keita. Nobody was looking good. Bajcetic had to go bold. So give a break to Jurgen Klopp. Klopp, that is the only manager to beat Man City in the last 6 years and the only manager to beat Bayern Munich the last 12 years. So give this man a break, okay? He doesn't deserve the hate. And let's see what McAllister and with more midfielders there. I wanted to reference that, but I've hinted it.
Yeah,
but
you've
this
hinted
was
it.
just last thing in the Prem. Pochettino's confirmed too. Pochettino's finally confirmed as the Chelsea's new manager. I wanted to say that.
Yeah, and I know. Oh my gosh. First step is going to be offloading that roster. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know how he's going to go about it. But it also comes with the realization. I think Todd Bowley has actually said that he will be stepping back from any footballing decisions, which I think most people will be genuinely happy about at this moment in time. But listen, it's a way forward. It's a way forward that I don't necessarily think is going to provide immediate dividends. But hey, I think Chelsea's going to do a whole lot better than they did this season, next season. How's that for like the world's easiest prediction? Because I think they wound up this season. Was it 17 losses? 16 losses? 17 losses? Gosh. I mean, absolutely insane amount of losses. When you think about piecemeal, how much talent is on that roster? Okay, I'm not ready to relegate Mykhailo Mudryk down to terrible. No. I'm not ready to relegate a lot of these names down to terrible. No. Piecemeal, when you break them all apart, they look like they could be good pieces in the future. Yeah. I still blame the operator. I blame Bowley for making this mess, and if Pochettino can wade through it with the help of this cast, this front office cast, Chelsea can go a type of worst to first, maybe not first, but worst to Champions League football again next season. And I'm just going to put you on the spot right now. Will Chelsea be a Champions League team at the end of next season?
If they sign a striker to play next to Nkunku and a midfielder that is world-class next to Enzo, I can see that happen. I can see that happen. If they do just that. Ugarte and Enzo would be a very interesting duo for the midfield of Chelsea. Most definitely. Yeah. They know each other, and they would be ruthless. Not Primera Liga bias. I've seen both, and they can go bold in the Premier League. They would dominate. I like that, how you're mentioning that. Thiago Silva was awarded Chelsea's best player at the age of 38. Like this man is class and one of the best center backs in the last decade in football. Wanted to mention that. And if we missed anything in the Premier League, please put down below, people, okay? Because we're going to be mentioning Bundesliga, no?
We are going to be mentioning Bundesliga, and if we want to talk about bungling it, then that's definitely where you need to start. Because on the last day, I honestly, anytime I get excited for a fixture, anytime I get excited for a game, I am kryptonite. I absolutely am kryptonite. I am not necessarily like a Dortmund fan, but my wife had to actually mention this to me. She said, anytime you root for a team or you actively say, I want to sit down and watch this game, they wind up not doing so hot. And there you go. Dortmund down 2-0 in the first 20 minutes, shooting themselves in the foot, digging themselves a hole that we all knew that they weren't really going to get out of. And yet, it almost happened. It almost happened. But there was Jamal Musiala to make sure that Bayern Munich win their 11th in a row.
History.
Oh, my gosh.
That's history.
It's just history.
I love
it. Is.
Dortmund have officially have the biggest bottle job ever in the history of football. They depended just on themselves. Just on themselves. Yeah. Jude Bellingham on the bench, injured. I felt sorry for Jude Bellingham because he couldn't do anything. He only could support the team. Like, that was so sad to see. So sad to see. Was. And, heartbreaking. Reus has never won a Bundesliga title, and this was the best chance. It's just heartbreaking to see. Bellingham now going to Real Madrid.
But start Royce from the get-go. I didn't understand Aiden Terzic's thought process behind that. Like, Jude Bellingham being on the bench when he was injured, fine. have him there in plain clothes. Why actually take up a roster spot if you're not even going to throw him into the fray? You're convincing people that he's healthy enough to play when you actually have him dressed and you have him warming up on the sideline? The hell was that? And on top of that, but still, on top of that, the three spark plugs that you use, you got Adeyemi going out. Everyone else just did not show up. All those guys that we talked about that contributed to Dortmund's rise to the top over recently, and obviously Bayern contributed to their own, second place demise or hole that they were in leading up to the final match day. Adeyemi, injured and was not showing up to begin with. Daniel Malen, completely absent. Sebastian Haller missed multiple chances when he honestly could have put this thing on ice or got them back into it. In the end, Edin Terzic turned to who? He turned to a 20-year-old Gio Reyna to provide a spark, who he did. A 17-year-old Julian Duranvale, 17? Yeah. Yep. A winger who provided a lot of the service late in the game that led to some of the most dangerous chances. And then, Mukoko, who did relatively well, who's only 18 years old. So I just don't understand what Terzic was trying to do. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss. And for many people, you almost could feel that they had lost it before it even started. Mm-hmm. Right? That's kind of what it looked like. It's like, so how is Dortmund going to bottle it this time? Because guess what? Over this 11-year ridiculous reign of terror of Bayern Munich on the Bundesliga, Dortmund have finished second 7 times.
Hey.
7 times.
That's a mad stat.
7 times.
With Tuchel manager, Marco Rose there. Terzic now being one of the managers. That is mad. The club actually made it happen. And Bayern Munich have won their 11th Bundesliga in a row. The 12th Bundesliga of Thomas Müller. No player in the Bundesliga has won more than this man. Football heritage in the making. And Jamal Musiala, you referred to him. Jamal Musiala's hero goal was an iconic moment for this youngster. His goal was the one that made them win the Bundesliga, and he's got 12 goals and 10 assists this season in the Bundesliga. Double digits in both goal involvements. Insane stats and generational talent. They got to keep him. Bayern Munich have to extend Jamal Musiala. If Müller is leaving, if Kimmich is leaving, if Alphonso Davies may be leaving, keep Musiala. Desperately have to get that. And sign players like Wirtz and other players like Frimpong and the Ligue was good. But another mention too is like Coman. Kingsley Coman has won the league every single season he has played football. How? 12 league titles. The same number as Messi in league titles. And Müller too. Coman. How can he make this happen? Insane stat. What is this?
In three different countries too. In 3 different countries. No, I mean his skill set is always going to be wanted. And he played a big part. Gnabry played a huge part in this win for them. But this was not Bayern Munich. This was Dortmund's bottle job, and they better own it. Because this was a bizarre season in the Bundesliga. It really was. It was immensely bizarre. We are normally looking at Lewandowski going after Haaland when it comes to the Bundesliga Golden Boot. Yes. This season, Christo Nkunku spent 2 months on in the physio, and he still wound up with a share of the Golden Boot with a guy named Nicholas Füllkrug, who I think it was 16 goals compared to what we normally see in the Bundesliga. Yeah, so you had Dortmund, who I don't think had anybody in double digits the whole season.
It's factual because Haller too was injured big time, but that is really well pointed out. Edin Terzic managed to take the best out of the Dortmund team, sharing the goals with Mukoko, Malen, and all the players you mentioned. But mentioning Golden Boots, Nkunku and Füllkrug win the Golden Boot with 16 goals. But Erling Haaland had 17 goals in October in the Premier League. League. That is mad that there's no finishers in the Bundesliga. The biggest change in the Bundesliga was last season you had Haaland and Lewandowski. Lewandowski had 35 goals. 35 goals for Bayern in the Bundesliga. This season, no player has even more than 20. More than 20. Yep. That's the biggest game change. Biggest game change.
Barely even over 15, man. We're closer to 15 than we are 20, and you're rounding up because, man, it was a bizarre season. But it was a season for the playmakers, I guess you could say. Kolo Muani broke out. Obviously Jamal Musiala took more of a leadership role when it came to Bayern and has taken some lumps along the way, kind of disappearing. Florian Wirtz is back with a vengeance. A lot of the Leverkusen guys that you wanted to see do well have done well. But guess what? There is no story that I like better than what Union Berlin did. Yeah, they were on the top of the Bundesliga at some point. We all felt that there'd be a regression to the mean because I guarantee you, if I put people out there that watch Bundesliga football or people out there that swear that they're world football fans and watch every league, very few of them could name maybe 2 players on Union Berlin because they're not a team of superstars. They're a team of team. They are all team. And this trajectory is absolutely insane. It will be their first Champions League campaign ever. Okay? And everyone thought that it was going to be Hertha Berlin that brought the Champions League back to Berlin, but now it is going to be Union Berlin, who was not even in the Bundesliga like 5 years ago. Okay, they were not even in the Bundesliga 5 years ago, and still, Jordan Pefok was hot as heck for them at the beginning of the season. He's relegated to a bench role. Now it's Kevin Behrens and Geraldo Becker. Their back line is Danilo Doki and, a few guys that we've probably seen somewhere else. I know Diogo Leite, didn't he play a role for them? Yeah. So it was a team of teams. It was a great effort. They also took advantage of this cannibalization at the top where everybody was just beating up on everybody. But Union Berlin will be a Champions League not contending team, but a Champions League team next season. And I think if you're going to pick on any team, any narrative to come out of the Bundesliga this season, it is Union Berlin. So good on you. And I love to see it.
I like that narrative. And I'm going to mention my narrative in my last Bundesliga topic. It's like Xabi Alonso. I've been talking about him since he's been appointed, and the truth is Xabi Alonso is one of the best young managers in football right now. If you see the development of Frimpong, if you see how they play in that 3-4-3 in the Bundesliga, it's absolutely special. Xabi Alonso ball, when he started, Leverkusen was 17th. They've ended in 6th with Conference League football. They've signed Grimaldo from Benfica, a great left back that will be very interesting in the Bundesliga, and we're going to see Wirtz big time. We're going to see sells of Frimpong and Moussa Diaby most possibly, but still, I think they can sign great players too with the money, and they can have a better team for next season. I believe Leverkusen will be a top 4 team with Xabi Alonso next season in the Bundesliga. I believe a lot in this man. That is my prediction from the start, but if we missed anything with the Bundesliga, people, put down below. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I definitely have to just throw in there. I have to ask you a question before we move on from the Bundesliga, because here's what I'm worried about. Bayern have actually done something. Okay, they made a mistake, or Oliver Kahn maybe made this mistake, or Hassan made the mistake. I don't know who made the mistake, but my goodness, did they just pay for it, right? But Bayern, okay, that was the chance to beat Bayern and pry their grubby hands off the trophy, right? Okay? And Dortmund bungled it. Do we feel like with Bayern's moves, right? They're moving on. It's now Tuchel and whoever in the front office, okay? But gone are Oliver Kahn, and gone is Salih Hamadzovic. I'm going to mess up his name. Hassan. Gone is their front office that we grew to know, right? Legend of Oliver Kahn. Do we feel like Bayern is just consolidating to the point where it's going to be the next 10 years all Bayern Munich? Or do we actually feel like Dortmund or Leverkusen or any of these guys can actually hang in with their spending power, with their draw with this? Because that was the time to knock them off their perch, and it's gone. It's done. And here I am, I'm looking out, and I don't see a way for Bayern Munich to be knocked off this perch. We could go 15 years with Bayern Munich at the top, and I think it's a sad thing for Bundesliga football if that's the chance, if that's the possibility.
I see a way, being honest, because Leipzig beat Bayern Munich before the last fixture. And I see growing teams in the Bundesliga too. I don't think... I think if Müller leaves, if Kimmich leaves, that I think it will happen, Bayern Munich are going to have a tough time. Because they haven't replaced Lewandowski. And I don't think they will replace these two players, only if they get Wirtz to replace Müller. Yeah. Literally. But let's see. I think it's... Put down below, people, your thoughts. Yeah. Do you think Bayern Munich will be stronger next season? Do you think they will reinforce themselves well this summer? Because that's what we got to see too. If they're going to make the right moves to then compete. Because I believe Dortmund will do the right moves. If Jude Bellingham leaves and they're getting Edson Alvarez, I like that move. So
for 40 million? Oof.
For 40 million too. Okay. So that little moves like that.
And I hear you. I hear you talking about Leipzig too, right? Leipzig could in the future actually have, a little bit of firepower to get them, but they're selling as well. They're selling Nkunku, they're selling Szoboszlai, they're probably going to sell Gvardiol potentially. It just comes down to
and Česko's coming.
These clubs.
I think they'll be better offensively next season. That's my prediction.
Underwhelming.
I think Česko will score more than 20 goals in the Bundesliga. I'll put that out there
next season.
I'll put that out there. Next season, I believe Česko can score 20 goals in the Bundesliga. At least I think he will be a top 5 goal scorer. I'm putting that pressure. Huge. Well, that's huge. But there's no finishers. There's no finishers.
I'll throw one out there. I have a feeling there will be an Englishman in the 11. Not Jamal Musiala in that sense, right? But I have a feeling that Bayern will sign either Declan Rice or Harry Kane.
What?
This offseason.
What? Yeah. Hey, that would be bold to see an Englishman go to Bayern. I'd love that.
I'm just thinking.
I'd love that, man. Yeah. But people, put that below.
Not since Owen Hargreaves, right? Although he ended up being Canadian.
I thought you were going to say Bino Jinsons was going to have a bold season.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I understand that. I understand that.
Okay.
But referring now to other leagues, I want to mention my league. Benfica have won the Portuguese league. 38th time they've ever done it. And Roger Schmidt, great job by managing this club the right way, in my opinion. Roger Schmidt, like, Enzo was sold for 120 million, and Benfica had to work with what they had. Roger Schmidt trusts Ronevs, a youngster that started in Benfica B. And please, people, this is one of the best 18-year-old midfielders I've seen in Portugal, Ronevs, and he could be going to the Euros next summer for Portugal. He's 18 right now. This is my bold prediction. Like, he's got that mentality, Breton, and the playmaking ability to do so. He's the best midfielder at Benfica right now, going forwards, next to Arsens too. I wanted to give a special shout-out to Arsens. Frederik Arsens is the most influential player of Benfica this season. He's played at fullback, the adaptability, and how he understands Roger Schmidt. This is a special player, only signed for 15 million. Benfica legend in the making, in my opinion.
So who's your Primera Liga player of the season?
Player of the season, at a given point, I was gonna give it to João Mario, but Arsens is my. I'll give it to Arsens because Arsens was really the heartbeat of Benfica, the heartbeat. And it saddens me if Gonçalo Ramos scored the penalties, I might be giving the Gonçalo Ramos the best player of the season, but he did have a bad form at the late stages, and it's completely normal. You can't be scoring consistently. At 21, a whole season, that is very hard. His first full season, too. But Gonçalo Ramos, people, please pay attention. One of the best young strikers to watch this summer because he balled out. 27 goals for Benfica this season and a hat-trick in the World Cup for Portugal. That was special, what happened. Gonçalo Ramos, you went bold and deservingly have attention. But to see Benfica celebrate with players made in Seychelles like Florentino Luís, Antonio Silva, Samuel Soares, and the special star boy, João Neves, it just shows that the culture of the team and Rui Costa, he's doing things the right way. So people, pay attention next season. Pay attention next season to Benfica because it's going to be really good to watch. Really good to watch. In the last 10 seasons in Primeira Liga, Benfica have won the league 6 times. Porto 3 and Sporting 1. Benfica has been dominant. And let's see if it keeps going with Roger Schmidt. Let's see. But Sergio Conceição is my favorite manager. 38
in total? There you go. Well, and that's the crazy thing about Frederick Arsenis having such an impact in the Premier Liga, because he was one of the key departures of Feyenoord, right? Right? He was Feyenoord. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was a key departure of Feyenoord.
Weaver.
And they got Mats Weaver. And and if Arsenis didn't leave, we wouldn't know the name, and this kid would not have an Oranje call-up. So it really is. It's amazing how the world keeps turning, and how guys just become, because Arsenis, I 100% agree with you. He was everywhere for Benfica this season. But you're basically telling me that your initial preliminary Primera Liga predictions for next season has Benfica on top once again.
Let's see how Braga goes in the transfer window this summer, man.
All right.
I'm saying Braga is a special team in the making, and the truth is they end up top 3. Sporting are the ones they're going to be fighting with. Maybe Ruben Amorim. Let's see if he stays in Tottenham. Don't get him. That could be the case. But I'm mentioning Arsenal. I'm mentioning Eredivisie too. And I want to say, in the Eredivisie, we have some special mentions. I at least have one that I have to go bold with him. That is Xavi Simons. Xavi Simons, like, he scored a goal that made every Ajax fan hate him even more, okay? His goal made Ajax go, now they're not qualifying in the Champions League because of Xavi Simons' brace for PSV in this last game, okay? Xavi Simons this season has 48 games, 22 goals, and 12 assists. Debut season at PSV, and one of the best Wonderkids in the world of football. That must be stated, and no flop comments allowed next to Xavi Simons anymore. What a season.
Not at all. Not at all, because not only was it his debut season in the Eredivisie for PSV Eindhoven, this was his debut, essentially, full professional season, Xavi Simons. And 19 goals in the league, 8 assists in the league. He is a Golden Boot winner. He's going to share it with Duvikas, I think, from FC Utrecht, right? But he is a Golden Boot winner in his first full season, mostly lining up at attacking mid, right? So him under Ruud van Nistelrooy, this is your quick reminder that Xavi Simons was let go by PSG on a free. Just got to throw that out there.
It's a quick reminder, man. That's a quick reminder.
Quick reminder, because this ascent is just it's amazing. It really is. Okay, nobody. I don't think you or I could have sat here and defended him and said, no, he's not he's not going to wind up being maybe an everyday player for the Oranje. He's not going to wind up being an everyday player necessarily for like a Champions League team, but he's going to have a good career. And here he is, taking guys that were somewhat positive about him and still wanted to be optimistic about the future of Xavi Simons, and literally saying, yeah, screw you too. Because look at this, 19 goals, 8 assists in the Eredivisie, leading them to second place, Champions League football. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful story, and long may it continue. One other mention in the Eredivisie, there will be, I think Feyenoord is going to go after, and I hope they go after hard, and I hope Arne Slot stays, because it sounds like he is. He's already extended. And I don't think that that's just for a compensation type of thing, because I don't know if they do that for coaches. But Ricardo Pepi for Feyenoord, make it happen, please. My selfish little USMNT heart needs to see Ricardo Pepi at Feyenoord with proper service, proper support. And I guarantee you, if you're going to make that statement about double-digit goals, I forget who you're going to make you made the statement about. I'm going to make the statement. Oh no, you said João Neves on the Euros roster. I'm going to make the statement that if Ricardo Pepi goes to Feyenoord, he will break 20 goals in the Eredivisie. They just need to get it done. He needs to get out of Augsburg, get out of Groningen, and get into Feyenoord, and let this kid get service from Bakayoko. Let him get service from that Veerman. Oh my gosh, give it to me. I hope it happens.
And you're mentioning
Veerman's somebody else.
Weaver, you're mentioning Ricardo Pepi going to Feyenoord, and it's mad that a U.S. men's national team will be the replacement of a player from L3, Mexican striker Santiago Jimenez, that for sure will be leaving the Eredivisie. Special players: Xavi Simons, Fabio Silva went bold. Bakayoko for
Yep.
PSV went bold. Wiffer, you mentioned. Koksu, for me, the best player in the Eredivisie this season. It's worth the watch, people. Watch Eredivisie and Primera Liga, like we mentioned at the start of this video. And even Swedish League, I want to mention fast. Ugo Larsson, one of the best CDMs, to get in this market, in my opinion, is going to Frankfurt. Okay, it will be a record sale from a Swedish club for 11.5 million to Frankfurt. Great scouting from Frankfurt to get Ugo Larsson. Great passing ability.
He's worth
on
it.
This kid.
He's worth it.
Exactly.
I hope it turns out a little bit better than, Viliet Svedberg, we had high hopes on. There were quite a few others over the last few seasons. But Hugo Larsson is a great signing. But Frankfurt, I think they wound up, did they wind up short? I think they wound up short with European football.
I think they did.
So, because Leverkusen pipped it at the end, right?
And they were asking 100 million for Colomwani. Oh my god. Exactly.
I mean, oh my gosh. Well, Kolo Muani's French. We can segue that to Ligue 1 because I don't want to. I know you're going to say something about PSG. You're probably going to talk about Leo Messi. Guess what? I'm going to tell you right now. I don't care. I want to talk about Lyon, the second place team, because 5 years ago they were in Ligue 2, and they weren't even a factor in the race for promotion in that. Now, we know Lyon has a history. They have a history of development. They have a history of, in French football, okay? But they just consolidated second place. They kept PSG relatively honest all the way up until the end. They're going to lose this thing, I think, by 4 points or 5 points. But when all is said and done, this club got 20 goals from Lois Openda, okay, the new Belgian striker. And on top of that, they will be in Champions League football once again for the first time, I think, in 2+ decades. So congratulations to them. We haven't mentioned them too much, but they've got guys like Florian Sitoka. They've got guys like Facundo Medina, who was in the running, or I think even on the Argentinian roster that won the World Cup.
The midfielder,
they've
really
got great
player. Fofana
in the midfield. Yep, and Ahmed, the German, the Ghanaian midfielder as well that has been, and Seko Fofana, absolutely. So I think, who's their goalkeeper? Bryce Samba is another name that deserves a whole lot of credit this season because Lyon was pretty ruthless. It was pretty ruthless this season, and Lyon was able to actually make their way beyond the Monacos, beyond the Lyons, beyond the Lilles. And really give PSG at least a push in the end. Wow. But it's good to have them back in football when it was 3 seasons ago, not 5. That was Union Berlin. 3 seasons ago, they were just winning their promotion back to Ligue. So good to see.
That's special. That is, I like that mention with Lyon because yes, they have football heritage in Liga. They're a very decorated team and well respected. I like how you're saying, like Lorient, Lyon and Lorient, great decorated teams in Liga. But I'm gonna mention PSG because yes, PSG back-to-back Ligue 1 champions, and Mbappe at the age of 24 has won Ligue 1 6 times. 6 times. You might see him winning 7 or 8 times too, because he's going to stay long term, I think. I think he'll stay. Because this summer, I think Messi's leaving. I think Neymar's leaving. I think Sergio Ramos is leaving. And it will be very hard to keep Verratti too, as all the reports are saying. So big 4 leaving at PSG. But Messi, this season, became the most decorated player ever in football with 43 trophies, matching to Dani Alves. And I believe he will be surpassing in the next few years that stat. It's special what Messi has done in football, and yeah, it's just great.
What was that stat I saw about 496 goals or something? What was that? That was across the 5 leagues or something. He's got the most goals across the top 5 leagues. I don't know. It was making its circulation around Twitter, but you know the nicest thing that I saw about the PSG kind of win that we all kind of knew was coming. It was the fact that they had Zaire Emery starting. They had Bitshaibu El Chadai Bitshaibu, their center back, big center back, young center back. I think 18 years old, starting. So they actually had some youth on the pitch for it. But yeah, there are question marks with PSG moving forward. Now, there's no question marks about how much money that they're going to spend.
Manager.
But who is going to be manager, and how are they going to replace, or are they even going to try and replace a Messi, a Neymar? I think more there's the outgoings, but I do see, and this one kind of has me worried. Hopefully he's smarter than this. But I did see that the other name going after Ugarte is actually PSG. And they're going after, they have a package out to him because they're already meeting that 60 million release clause. But when it comes down to it, I hope that Ugarte does not wind up at PSG. I hope.
I don't think
that
it
is
would be
not
bad.
For him to
Ugarte and Vitinha, that would be interesting. And if Verratti's leaving, that would be a heavy player leaving, with heritage at PSG especially. They got to get a player like Ugarte. Luis Campos showing his scouting ability right there. Like, and you refer to the big question mark at PSG. Big question mark at PSG is the manager. And the solution, if they want to win the Champions League in the next year with Mbappé, the best manager choice, in my opinion, I don't care if it's biased, it's Mourinho. It's Mourinho. In the knockout stages, he is the man. And what would he want to win at PSG? It's only the Champions League. Ligue 1 wouldn't be enough. And would it be special? Wouldn't it be special? Haaland with Guardiola and PSG with Mourinho and Mbappe? The football future? Especially considering if Messi and Neymar is leaving, they need a heavy name. Heavy name. And Mourinho is that heavy name to be talked about. That can make the difference. He could do that. I really believe he could do that. And if Mourinho, I believe this. I believe Mourinho will win the Europa League with Roma. And if he wins back-to-back European competitions, last year winning Conference League, this year winning Europa League, and the next being a PSG, being a contender for the Champions League, that would be special to watch. And Mbappe, he wouldn't say nothing with big boss Mourinho. He would be the boss in that locker room, Mourinho, if he was a PSG. And they need a reality check, those PSG players. Something Mourinho would be able to do. I really believe he would be the best choice. I really believe, Breton. This is... Yeah,
I think you are glossing over the fact that AS Roma does need to win that Europa League final. They absolutely have to ensure Champions League football next season.
They will.
They have to. Because as of right now, I believe there's a game in hand, and I don't know what's going on, as we're filming this, but Roma is teetering on the edge of European football at all when it comes to Serie. They lost to Fiorentina. So it's whoever's below them. I think it's Atalanta, but Atalanta lost, but they have a game in hand or something like that. Yeah, okay. Well, and, that's something to be said. Hey, Champions League people, if there's any optimism out there of people that might not like Manchester City and they don't want Manchester City to win the Champions League final, all I gotta say is Inter Milan is firing on all cylinders. I mean, my goodness, Lautaro. I forgot that Lautaro Martinez is only 25 years old. Only 25 years old. He's got 37 goal involvements this season, 27 goals, and he is looking so in form that honestly, okay, I still think City's going to win, but Lautaro Martinez and Lukaku, if they're their best version of themselves against Manchester City, this is not going to be an easy game.
And Zeko.
And Zeko. And Barella. And, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Inter right now. And they've just been on fire in Serie A. It's just whether or not they can make it translate. It's this fine day, June 10th?
It's
June 11th, whatever
Inter
it is.
could win a European treble. They won the Supercoppa. They won the Coppa d'Italia beating Fiorentina. If they win the Champions League, they have a European treble, something that wasn't done since Mourinho was there. And Simone Inzaghi, he was going to be sacked at a given point this season. It's absolutely ridiculous how this man has gone up. Simone Inzaghi in his last 7 finals. Simone Inzaghi in his last 8 finals, he's won 7. So if he wins the Champions League in his last 9, he wins 8. That would be special stat if that would happen for a manager like Inzaghi that is underrated for many. And the team from top to bottom, I want to mention Onana, Sanyanoglu, Mkhitaryan, Barella, that is a perfect midfielder. Barella's world class. Bastoni's world class. Players that love Inter. And Acerbi. Acerbi was one of the best signings last summer. And a Lazio and Inzaghi player that he was at Lazio with him. I want to say Acerbi has the most minutes played for Inter this season. A veteran, the leader at the back. It is exactly beating cancer twice too, Acerbi, and always with Inzaghi. So Inzaghi trusts this player, and he only cost Inter 4 million. Masterclass deal. Masterclass deal. What? I love how you're mentioning this. Great.
Well, because Inter, not just with Inzaghi, Inter's been in the press because of the tightness that has been put on what they're spending. Right? I mean, there's been a whole lot of no, you're not going to spend this. So they're still able to do it. And I think you once said, and you may have just alluded to it, that top to bottom, they have one of the best rosters constructed in football, or at least in Serie. In Serie.
The best team. I think so, yeah.
But just as a quick testament to Lautaro's form as of right now, we're talking 9 goals, 3 assists in his last 9 games in Serie. So I do wonder. It's a one-off game, and it's a one-off game for a reason. And if you go in there and Manchester City or Pep or does his overthink thing, which I think he's over that. I think Pep Guardiola is overthinking. I think Lautaro can make him pay early, and then it's just whether or not they can hold on, and they do have a solid defense. So anyway, I was not trying to get into Champions League football talk, considering we still got a few weeks off, but Inter bossing their last few months and consolidating a Champions League spot for next season, even though they're finalists, is a pretty impressive way to begin. So some great, even though things wound up the way that they normally do, except in Serie A, it was a great league season of football. I mean, Arsenal, Man City, Bayern, Borussia Dortmund, Napoli winning for the first time since Maradona. Ligue 1, PSG always felt like they were going to win, but Lyon taking them at least to the end with 4 or 5 points. Within 4 or 5 points. The Eredivisie getting a nice little breath of fresh air with Feyenoord. Just a lot of fun things, and I hope we can do it again next season.
It'll be interesting. I liked Barca winning it, true. And Serie A. Serie A is becoming more interesting with Juve too. Juve losing their power stance, like losing all the points that they have. Oh my days. And to see now teams like Milan, teams like Fiorentina. Let's not forget, Fiorentina has a player like Amrabat, one of the best players in the World Cup. He's still there. And he is in a Conference League final for that team. He can do history too. So Calcio is going up, and it might be the 3rd best league in the world in the next few years. So let's see.
Could be.
Let's see. Yeah. It's a talk that we could have in this case. Yep. But do you have any last mentions, Breton, in the podcast?
Yeah, because, we are FC Wonderkid for a reason. For those that are infinitely excited about all the football goings-ons, if you're not watching the U20 World Cup because some of the biggest stars aren't there, then come on, shame on you, right? Because there are other stars that are certainly making a name for themselves. And I just, just looking at them and looking at the stats will actually tell you quite a bit of the story. But, Italy looks good. My boys, USA, the U20s, first time and 17 times in the U20 World Cup that they have gone, they've won all 3 group stage games and they have not conceded a goal. So you've got guys in that roster, guys like Gaga Slanina is showing up. He's been very good. He was phenomenal in that final group stage game against Slovakia. Their defense, Brandon Craig. You've got Jack McGlynn in the midfield, 2 Philadelphia Union boys, soon to be Joshua Winder, soon to be a Benfica player. And then beyond that, guys that people have been wanting to see for some time. Chelsea signed Cesare Cazade. He is the leading scorer right now in the group stage of the U20 World Cup. He's got 4 goals. So many guys that you should be watching there that even though Endrick isn't there, Marcus Leonardo is. Marlon Gomez is. Robert Renan is. Savio is. And they're all going bold. And it's a lot of fun to watch. Gambia a team that not many people expected to do anything in this U20 World Cup, has made it already out. They beat France. They already made it out. I don't care if it's a France C team or B team. They beat France, okay? And they are already out of their group, and they will already be in that round of 16, and it's fun to watch. You've got Ecuadorians like Nilson Angulo. You've got Kendry Paez becoming the youngest player to ever score in the U20 World Cup. Fabricio Diaz is going to be part of Benfica or Real Madrid talks in the near future. There are so many names that are starting to come out. So I get that we were bummed that the Endricks of the world were not going to be at this tournament, but the U20 World Cup is always a fun watch, and new stars are always born, as we've seen. 2005, it was Lionel Messi. Okay, and this time around, there are some other names like Federico Redondo is another one. We all know his dad. Okay, but Federico Redondo has been absolutely central to Argentina, who really shouldn't even be in this tournament. They're there because they're hosts. But so many great names. So do me a favor, if you're not watching, start watching, because the round of 16 will start soon. I didn't even mention any of the English names. I didn't mention any of the other names, but we will mention more as we get into the round of 16. I just needed to make sure we said that. And that's it. That's all I got for you today.
And if you're listening until now, please do not forget to like this video. Yes, for sure we will be mentioning more players of the Under-20 World Cup. My favorite until now is Casadei from Italy. Great signing from Chelsea. Paez and Casadei are going bold in the Under-20 World Cup. So Chelsea fans must be hyped up about that's perspective that is happening.
Huge.
But people, if you're listening until now, do not forget to like episode 107, and thank you for going bold another week. Thank you, people.